Well, I almost have my table done here. I got to put the under the table keyboard and mouse holder on tomorrow, and the broadcasting desk, if I may call it that, would be done. So, if we can have a conversation about something that cannot have a conversation about, then that's what we'll do. Most of what I've been posting is new, therefore difficult to have a conversation about because it doesn't have any history, no memory of no memory of something that's new can be had. Therefore, it must be treated as something new, new as never having been before. So, if we can have a conversation about the negation of our entire consciousness, in order to create the new, the old must die. Words fail us often, and they certainly fail us when we're speaking about these sorts of things. So it can be negated. The entire collective consciousness can be negated and a new one manifested. The collective consciousness controls us because it reached, sometime thousands of years ago, critical mass. And then after that, everything followed suit, followed along, if you will. Like Christian people or religious people, they follow, whatever, just follow, follow, follow. So, in order to discover this thing I'm speaking of, you need to realize that there was a time in your life when this thing I'm speaking of was your life. You were the energy of the universe. You were the intelligence of the universe before you, well, ate the fruit of knowledge, or as Krishnamurti said, made a wrong turn, however you care to put it, until we allowed ourselves to be trapped in knowledge and thought and belief. So if we were to negate our entire consciousness, that would allow us then to manifest a new consciousness. That new consciousness would manifest itself from creation. It would be created. It just came to me, by the way, as I was speaking, that I did not change the manner of broadcasting from only me to public. Oh boy, I forgot to do that. It didn't used to be that way. It came on as public every time, but recently it changed and it comes on as only me, so that I'm the only one that can see it. So after I'm complete with all of this, I will have to change it to public. And then y'all, that's a southern phrase, an Arkansas phrase. I learned it when I left the north. Y'all be able to watch this if you care to. Listen if you can. So the negation of our entire consciousness can happen all at once. It has to happen outside of time, outside of thought, outside of belief, outside of the nonsense of our present consciousness. it can happen all at once, or you can bring it forth in steps. By steps, I mean speaking the truth in large chunks as you go along, that you fail as a husband, that you fail as a wife, all of that. Only when you realize that you have failed at all things that this present consciousness demands. Now, if you can bear with me for a moment, this is a discovery that I made, and you can make the same, obviously. When you fail at everything that this consciousness, the consciousness that goes from war to war to war to war, and gets ready for war in between. I think in America we have $7.5 billion set aside to keep killing people all over the world. And as I've said before, we've been at war for 226 of our 242 years. So if you look at it from that standpoint, you'll realize this is an insane planet. People on this planet are insane. No matter what you do, as Shakespeare said, we are in a play, and each of us take our role. Some of our roles are to stop, not have war. Some are to go to. At any rate, all of them, the roles, man, woman, all of those things lead to the same place, world wars. I'm leading up to this huge discovery. Krishnamurti said, "It is no measure of success to be successful in a completely immoral world, or some reasonable facsimile thereof." What he means to say is, don't be patting yourself on the back for being successful in an insane world. It just means you are higher insane, higher on the totem pole of insanity. The higher up that you are able to achieve in an insane world, the more insane you are. So that's a little bit of a difficult thing to discover. However, were you to this is a difficult thing to have a conversation about. Let's say you were, as I did, fail at every thing this planet demands of us. Fail as a father, as a son, as a Holy Ghost. No. Cousin, aunt, uncle, whatever the gender you are, all of those label things that you're supposed to take on, mother. And let's say you, as I did, failed at every one of them. Complete failure. Then as I looked, I said, wait a minute. The only thing I didn't fail at was being a human being. Because an actual human being wouldn't kill, wouldn't grab women between the legs, wouldn't go to war, wouldn't blow things up, wouldn't throw children into cages, wouldn't, as I've said about America, because it's the country I live in, it wouldn't be at war for 226 of its 242 years. So if you can't see on your own and by yourself that you are insane, you are mentally ill, you are progressing wars and killings and fighting and arguing, and the black people are horrible, the Jewish people are getting our money, the Muslims are trying to take over the world, the Catholics are on and on. You can go on and on. You can go on and on. 4,200 religions, and every one of them the right one. If you could take a close look at the world that you live in, the the world that you support, you have to see you're crazy. Crazy as a bedbug. And here's what I ask that you consider, that you can negate your entire consciousness. Consider that to bring forth a new world, the old world must die, be negated. Do you see? If you hold on to some part of the old world, you hold on to all of it. That's why I use the word die to, because you need to die to it. Because you need it to be negated. For instance, the Constitution in the United States, the whole written up things that we've had, what do they call that thing about killing people, the Star-Spangled Banner and the Bill of Rights and the Ten Commandments. No, that's religion. All of those things are a complete failure. And you are as well. As I said when we began this conversation, well, right after I talked about the desk I built, pretty soon it'll be like this. The keyboard will be under here, and I can pull it out. It's right here, but I don't have it ready to go underneath the desk yet. So the negation, I'm doing that, by the way, on purpose, because this is heavy. The deepest, perhaps, you've ever been asked to go. To create the old, to negate the old will allow the new to be born. But there's an important ingredient needed, and that ingredient is 100%. 100% implies, means, and is all of it. It means the entire thing, all of it. So I am certain, mostly, that you're considering that to negate the entire consciousness, this idiot is asking us to completely negate the collective consciousness that's been ruling this planet for thousands of years. Because you see, there's a dimension of awareness. Awareness is the ability to see, hear, feel, touch, sense. What do they call those? The five sentences? Sentences. Five senses? That's awareness. Consciousness, when you put NESS on the end of a word, that means the context of it, all of the content, the entire content of the content, the consciousness. I'm suggesting here, well, I'm telling you, that it is possible to negate the entirety of our old consciousness. The old consciousness has a core of violence. If you negate the old consciousness, here's the key to it, if you will, the only thing you really negate is the violence. You remove the violence, So if you take a look inside of your mind and ask yourself this question: what happens if I were to remove violence from within me? And farther, if we were to remove collectively violence from the collective? Because, you see, this collective consciousness started with one entity switching from intelligence, creation intelligence and truth, to knowledge, thought, and belief. And then another joining and another joining and another joining until critical mass was reached. When critical mass was reached, then collectively we moved from creation, intelligence, and truth into knowledge, thought, and belief. And since then, that was thousands of years ago, all we've been doing is repeating our lives over and over and over and over and over, war to war, war. What's going to happen next? War. And it happens because we're mad at each other. We get angry. We get jealous. We get divorced. We get married. We get divorced. We get all the same nonsense repeated over and over. Were you to negate your personal consciousness, then you would be the beginning of a new consciousness that had no, or has no, violence as its core. And then if it was one other person, another person, another person, at some point there would be critical mass. At that point, violence disappears from our planet. We no longer kill to eat. We no longer fight, argue. So, am I putting forth a dream world here? Am I speaking of something way beyond what's possible to happen? Or am I creating the possibility for internal peace to be internally free and peace on earth, goodwill to all? Forget that man stuff. That's crazy stuff. A perfect experience of the negation of your own consciousness that is rooted in violence to each of you. Good night.